Hey everybody. So today's video is going to be pretty intensive into stocks that are getting squeezed and ones that are moving like they're getting squeezed. Usually we do a daily recap and that's exactly what we're doing. But with the market action today and what's going to happen tomorrow, there's a lot of key levels we have to go over. I couldn't even fit all of them in today. There's so many stocks that just look like they're just going to completely break out. But let's start getting into it. We're going to be in alphabetical order. At the end of this video, there's really two that I think could just really continue to move. And frankly, they're moving in the after hours right now. So let's just get to it. As always, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. You know, what we go over here is extremely timely. And if you're watching it a week or two later, it's probably not the best idea. Just start here. And let me just put the symbol of this one up, even though the symbol's right here, ACTG. Just throw it up in here so people can see it a little clearer. But what we're seeing here is you're seeing a really nice like test of this line. And now you're seeing this volume kick in, right? And these are the kinds of things that are moving right now. You're seeing a rotation from people. And I'm going to throw in relative volume real quick so you can understand the magnitude of the move, right? So it's 5 times normal volume. Last time this happened, what happened? You broke out. And then you had a nice little move for a period of time. Something like this could absolutely happen here. 686 close is what you're looking for. Get above that and then look for a push. That could continue here. These are the kinds of names that are setting up to move right now. You're seeing a rotation, and you're seeing it in another asset class. You're really seeing people just get out of crypto, and the people that are doing that are just looking for the next place to put money to either make more money or recoup their losses. And frankly, they're looking at these little stocks and they're looking at short interest. It's kind of interesting to see how this is all playing out, but it's probably not going to go away for a while. They're going to just keep rotating into different ones until the game changes. And I don't see this changing for a while. So start looking at these kinds of trades because they're going to be around for a little bit. So here you are, 613, you got through it, decent volume. It's not really much to say here. I mean, this is an enormous move. You took out the low of 5, right? And you took out yesterday's low, which is crazy because essentially what you did was you opened here, so you think you're fine, take out the low, reverse, go back over the open, and then just rip and make a new high. Like that's extremely positive action, and that is somebody that didn't really want to show their hand, that had to show their hand because they had to get in, and they decided to use that dip as their buy. And they're probably going to be really easy to spot, right? So you can tell that it's most likely an institution. And how do you know that? You see all this volume at the end? So what they don't really want you to do, and I'll just show you this, they don't want you to know when they're buying, because you can get in front of them, right? Because you're smaller than most institutions. So you could see how this happens. All of a sudden, you have like an hourly spike here on the 15-minute, right? Look at this on an hourly, okay? So here's your hourly chart, and then just look how the volume increased, right? So you can see how this can play out. And then you could break it down and look at the relative volume over even smaller time frames, like here's 30 minutes, right? And then you can just see the beginning of the day, not so much. Towards the end of the day, they start buying it. They just don't want you to see the level of volume that's coming in. So that's actually a very bullish sign to look for. When you see it, pay attention to that because it's telling you, let's throw these indicators back in. And I don't really need to leave that in right now. And so what it's telling you is that you can expect this to continue. You don't reverse like this and then go down. You may base before breaking up, but I'm pretty emphatic that you do not all of a sudden just go down unless they do a secondary or something like that. And I don't know the company that well, but let's go out here and let's look at a monthly. It looks like we had some stuff on here. Yep. So there's your level all the way back to here. And you've gotten through that. And that's exactly what you're looking for, right? That's exactly the move that you wanted. So we've gotten that move. And now what we're going to do is just see how it plays out. And here you are on your daily. I've got too many of these. We'll get rid of one. So let's just keep going. Let's just keep taking a look. What would we do now? Well, we're above this, right? You're out to November. Okay, let's just keep going. we're above this. Where's next? Well, you have to start looking at these price points. And we can get rid of these indicators because we know we're above them. But you have to start looking at these price points. 8.5 here, right? So you can start seeing that. And another thing you could do with something like AHT is you really want to see where everybody owns it. And one of the vehicles I've been trying to show you are indicators to use that can give you some color on what's really going on under the hood is volume profile. So let's look at volume profile for a minute here. Okay. So this just tells you, two things. It tells you really primarily where everybody is in at and where your volume weighted profile is, which is here's your volume weighted average profile. And this is what's called point of control. And you can see how you're above both of those. And since you broke above both of those, how the stock is active. So you can really see that above here, right, for the past year, there's really very little volume. So now you're through all that. So what is that telling me? It's telling me this is my shelf. And when I get over it, see how you have these spikes? Now you understand why they're there. There's no volume up here. So that could happen again. Keep this one on your radar. I'm not a big fan of playing these smaller names, but this one is, you're setting up here and it looks good. AMC is very interesting. Nobody really asked me about it today. And just for those that are just starting to follow, these lines right here, these are the white lines are Fibonacci's that we're just going to leave in. You can see how the Fibonacci lines have just determined, the move, right? But what's more important is look how we're just basing. We're not taking out lows. So you might not have liked today's action or want to talk about it, right? I didn't get a lot of questions or people on Twitter asking about it. And consider following me on Twitter if you don't. We throw out a lot of actionable ideas, or I throw a lot of actionable ideas, and I'm going to go over some of them tonight. But the point that I'm getting at is this. I didn't take out a lower low. I was told that, we were told that they were going to cut margin rates and margin ability on at TD Ameritrade on AMC, and it had zero effect on the stock. So this is just getting tighter and staying in between these two, and getting through this level is going to be pretty significant. So let's just see how this plays out. But I really like this, and keep it on your radar. I don't think this is done. I really don't think that move's done. AMEH was one, let's throw in these indicators. AMEH was one that we put in the top 10 Saturday video, and I'll link that video at the end of this. But it's only Tuesday, and some of these stocks that are on that top 10 list are really ripping. So what's interesting about this is that we're just not even getting a breath of fresh air. Like, we're not even getting a chance to breathe. It's just higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, right? Like, look at the volume and how it increases up. While that's going on, the stock is increasing, correct? So, and I'm really getting these bars where we're opening and then closing at the high, and we've been doing it. Until that changes, this is going to continue. And just keep that in mind. Now, you can make an argument that this trend line, right? Now, you can see this one. Let me just put this one in. Okay. So the one thing I wanted to point out is you can see this other trend line here, and look how you hit the top of this. Look how you open below it and then ran again. That's telling you can push. If I break below this or take out a lower low and you have a very sizable gain in this, you probably want to just consider just trimming it, because when you bounce off these levels, you'll return to your mean, and your mean on this would be your 21-day moving average, and you probably don't really want to go for that. So this is one that just I really think that can continue, but it could need a breath of fresh air, right? Like we're talking about, like it might just need to breathe. So if we get rid of these indicators and just look at what we've done, so let's just look at this so you can understand the magnitude of the move. And let's blow this up so we can really get in there. So, you broke this level here, right? Which is your trend line, your downward trend. And then you ran to here, okay? That got you a 49% move. A 49% move in 2 weeks. I'm not surprised that we had a bad day, that it had a bad day. I think what you need to be doing is when these types of stocks are having bad days, it's figure out your levels to buy them. Like, why are you buying it up here when you could have bought it here today, right? So when you look at like 773 and we're looking at this level, and I'll walk through that and how to do that in this FUBU trade that I did today when we get there. But so what you're looking for here is relatively simple. You're just looking for this to come down to this level and then see if it held. And guess what it did? It bounced off that level. So you see how you leave these levels in, and this is BNGO. And let's just go take a look at this so you can understand where I'm going. Like what difference does that make? Okay, here's what it makes. So this line was respected here, and we broke over it. We ran to this line, right? Broke over it. Support became resistance, right? What happened when we got here today? We had a little reversal, a little Morningstar pattern. Not perfect, but there's a little Morningstar pattern here, right? What does that do for us? That tells us that we might be at a bottom. So you have that pattern on a 5-minute chart on a support line. You know, it's a pretty easy trade when it breaks above this, right? And then using this as your stop. I mean, you're really risking, you know, let's call it 790 and it's not, and it's 760, which it's not. You're really risking, and at 30 cents, let's call it 35 with slippage. And for a stock that you want to be in, and I don't really use these indicators, but I wanted to just show you something that I think is important with something like this that you can use that will help you. Okay, so this isn't the greatest volume, but it's sure above average, right? So let me get this straight. I'm at a support line. I'm forming a somewhat like muted Morningstar pattern, right? And I'm on the support, and I've got 2 times the average volume for what I've traded already today. Maybe it's worth a try. And then you can just see the selling that's going on that follows, right, on the lighter volume, and nobody really cares. And then you have buying at the end of the day. So that was a perfect way to get in the trade, stay in it, and then that just can become your stop. Your cost is your stop, and then see if it really goes. It just gives you that opportunity. That's really what you're looking for. You're looking for the opportunity. So what do you do now? Right now, there's not really much you can do with it. Let's throw back in the indicators, and we can get rid of one of these. And just take a look. I'm going to throw the 21 in as well. Okay, the way you're pointing up and everything, they're going to keep going, but this needs a little bit of a rest. I mean, even if you get into here and you throw the 8 in here, right, and the 5, and we've really clouded up, like it looks fantastic, but this needs this to me needs a break, and I think you're going to get it. I think people are going to rotate into other names. They're looking for short squeezes. I mean, it's pretty clear. You know, there's these patterns that are going on and they're duplicating. Let's go back and look at this. You know, this happened last June, right around the same time last year. Okay, a bunch of these. UONE was the one we talked about yesterday, and now you have this one oops, that's wrong. Now you have this one doing it. So, and here you were last June, and here you are again. I mean, almost to the day, and we're running, and the volume's okay. You know, you really can't use this, but if you look at this, you'll see it's these spikes coming. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that we're getting ready to keep lifting. So we might push here on this one. I don't think this is over. This is really very easy trades. Just keep using the lower low as your stop, and you can't get annihilated, right? The problem with moves like this is that there's no supports. Okay, that's why people get killed, because they're buying them when they're breaking out on these huge runs and they don't have a game plan. And you know, I talk to a lot of like beginning traders and newer traders, and I'll just throw this out there: consider having the entire game plan mapped out before you even put the trade on. That way, when something hits the fan, you're not worried. You already know what to do. You're just executing. You're not looking at it. You're not looking up earnings. You just want to get out, or, you know, or you want to stay in. So right here, this 16, watch this, how we broke here. That's important. Your only other real issue is right here. And that was rejected today at 1757. You get through that, and we're really starting to head towards, you know, this up here, which gets you to 22, 23, which is just crazy. But it can happen, especially if volume comes in. So definitely continue to watch this and put this on your radar. So coin, I'm going to get rid of this relative volume. And I just wanted to point this out today because what happened is pretty significant. You had a support line going right across here. Okay, and let me just draw that in. So your support line essentially was this close, this low. Okay, so that really gave you some support, not a lot, but like a minor support level, right? And what you're seeing now is a complete and utter break of that. So that's not the best. It's good for me because as people know that have been following me, I've been short this for a while. And I have puts on it as well. And I have been saying I think this goes into the 170s. This is a very easy way and an easy count. So if I roll here and I break this line, your count is from here to here on a percentage basis, not on a point basis, on a percentage basis to determine your target. So this move is 15%, right? Roughly from the top, from the peak of this, right? It's actually a little higher, isn't it? So it's really more up here. So from the peak here is 17. So just to kind of put this in perspective, if you drop this down to here, see how it makes it 21%, right? So now you just go back up and just say, this is really where you're looking. Okay, so that would put me, I've been saying 175. This is saying 173. So that's what I'm looking for. That's how I measure my move. Doesn't mean it's going to get there, but it gives me an understanding of where it could go so that I can manage my risk accurately. Right? I mean, that's really all we're constantly doing. So I would watch this. I would not be a buyer of this. I would consider closing this entire trade now, not waiting for it to get up here, because now I'm obviously up in it. What I would be really, what would make me start trimming it for sure is getting above this trend line, which it has not been able to do. You have not had one close above this trend line since this stock came to market. Not one. So just keep that in mind. And if you got one, I thought we were going to get one the other day. If you get one, it could mean that you're going to go back to 250, and I really don't want to give up the 30 points. So that's coin in a nutshell. COUR. Let me throw this right in here. So COUR, let's just go through this. I like that you got above this level yesterday, and you have huge volume coming in, above average, we'll call it. And you're running, but you have some work to do here still, right? So you have a resistance line right here that you rejected before. See how it was rejected right here? And then it just rolled back down. So I don't really see a rush into this. If it's true and you want to own it, you just have to use this as your support. And if you break this for any reason, you're going to want to get out of the way, especially the way you're curving and how the 21's coming up. It really shouldn't break down. It should consolidate and move higher. But it needs some time. This is not going to be a fast mover unless there's something fundamental coming out. So you'd really be looking at a a break of the 47.08 level that's over here. That's really what we want to see. So DMTK. So here you are, and we have all these lines in here. So, and we're going to get rid of these for now. We're going to get rid of the fib sequence. Okay. So I really don't need it for this particular, for what we're going to go over. So you can see we can even get rid of these indicators for a moment and expand this and really drill into it. So what you can see is you have this little cup here. And you tried to break out. The concern I have with this is I have this long-legged doji bar here now. And you get those when it doesn't know what it wants to do. So I have uncertainty. So if I have uncertainty, I really can't act, right? I need something definitive. So what you could do is, this is a great one to look at volume profile and see a couple things. So you could go here, and I'm just going to give you a couple indicators that you could use. You can go here and see, okay, well, point of control is right here, and we're above that. So realistically, that's very positive, and that could lead to a push. VWAP is up here, and this is volume profile VWAP, gets you back to that 48.69 level, and then I'll show you an anchored VWAP on this one. And this is kind of important. This has its time and its place. The anchored VWAP just happens to match perfectly with volume profile VWAP. And the reason, that I put that in is sometimes it doesn't match. It's kind of rare that would match exactly because it's going off the peak of where the volume weighted average price is throughout this move. So getting to this 48 is really your next level that you really would want to watch, right? And that doesn't really tell you a whole lot, but you can see some volume in there. But getting above this is what you're looking for. So that doesn't really give us a whole heck of a lot, except saying that we're above point of control and we're above the 50-day. But we still have to see what happens. We still don't have enough. So the very first thing that I need to see is to get above that 45.50, right? That's what we have to get above. And you can see the volume here. It's picking up a little bit, but it's not great. It's not exciting. I mean, there's way better stocks that we're going to get into that I'm going to show that I would be much more interested in. So EXPI. So this did everything that it needed to today. This is great volume. And you see this spike here. So, you know, just to be candid, by the time this processes and everything, the newsletter will be out anyway. This is going to be in the newsletter. This did exactly what I needed it to do. And it is just an absolute monster in revenues. So like in earnings, they're just through the roof. So I've been waiting for this for months, and I don't have a position in it yet, but it really did what I needed it to do today for me to do that. So this will be in the newsletter. If you don't get the newsletter, you might want to subscribe because we're going to make some changes to it. And it's only going to be backdated for the people that are in as of now. There's a link in the bio. It comes out 3 times a week, and it is free. But it's getting to the point where I just have to manage it properly. You know, there's a lot of questions coming in from it, which is exactly why I did it. And it's a great way to follow along with us and see what's going on during the week. But so I just feel that when you got above this, right? When you got above here on this level of volume, I mean, it's everything you wanted to see, right? And I'll just give you a couple more details that I really like here. Okay. I have all the way up here before I can get up to that point of control, but that gets me to 46. This gets me to 48. So just off this break, I have 4 or 5 points before I even get to that level, right? So that gives me plenty of time to get up there, let it build base, and then go from there. This is not, you know, to me, I don't know that this is going to be the fastest mover, but it's definitely going to go up. And when people start realizing that this is above the 200-day again, you're going to start seeing people pay attention to it. And also your 21's rolling up and your 50's rolling up. So expect to see that in the newsletter. If not tonight, very, very shortly. But I would expect that I put it in there tonight. FUBU looks great. There's not really much to say. We broke out, we based today, and we're just sitting there. There's not really much to really go over here. I just wanted to point this out, that you got up to the same level again and you rejected. So just watch that. And I'm not crazy about the fact that it's red today, but it is what it is. And we'll see how it plays out. FUV. So this was one that is going to be in the newsletter, and I was going to walk through it. I'll walk through it with this in there. Okay. So you can see right here, this is your point of control. We got over that today, and I'll get rid of this now so you can see that. So we got over that today and just pushed. But what really got me, and this is very important to understand. You see how you have all this volume here, and you're looking at this chart, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of volume. But relatively speaking, you really have no idea how much volume that is on a relative basis, right? Click this button. Oh, that's a lot of volume relative to what we've been dealing with, isn't it? And then if you drill down into this, okay, this is what, you know, I saw. And I was just like, woof. Like that's a lot in one time, right? Versus what we're normally dealing with. That's somebody saying, get me in. So for whatever reason, and that was our cue right above this line. It was exactly what we were looking for. So that's what we did. And let me just do this very quickly. So what you want to see here now is on this one in particular, right? You can see the breakout, come back down, you retested that breakout, and then you ran back up. I like this a lot, and I think this has pretty much staying power for a little bit. This is a nice turning and just beginning, running up, come back, backfill, and just start grinding higher. All these stocks are starting to base and have big moves. They're all starting. This one's breaking the 200, the 50. Do you see how they're like starting to come out and begin these big moves again? So I would really pay attention to that. It's very similar to what happened back here, right? And then you broke out, came consolidated, and then went. This is setting up like that again. And so I would keep that in mind. So GME, I just want to go over very quickly for those that are asking about it. The relative volume really doesn't play here, and we'll get rid of these. So this is just the most significant thing about this chart. And this line's been here forever, this 348 line. Look how you went to it today and rejected. Okay, and then just bounced down and closed on the low of this bar, complete and utter rejection, right? You got through, you couldn't hold this level and you couldn't hold that one. To me, we'll see what happens, but you know, because I've seen crazier things, but to me, this is setting up to come in very similar to what happened here. But we'll see what tomorrow brings. I would not be chasing this up here. You know, you had the opportunity back down here on this break. This is not where you step in and start trying to be a hero, you know, because you could get it. Could you get another push? Sure. But the rejection of this is telling me that whoever got up in here, they were getting out. So, and they got, it's pretty clear, right? I mean, these wicks are price rejection. So just watch those levels. You know, you're watching that 316.56 level and that 348.50 level. So just watch those key levels. They're important. And let's just go here. Gray. So again, I'm not a big fan of these smaller names, but this is somewhat interesting. And what got me about it, I'm going to drill in and just focus on this one portion of the chart. What got me about it was this volume. This volume is the single greatest volume that it's had. Green, period. Right? I mean, it's the greatest volume it's had. It's very clear. It's never had more volume than it did today, and that had my interest.
Connection loss.
I like that you're the 21's here and the 50, and we got above it. So there's a couple key levels you just want to watch. Okay, there's your first one, 522, and then here 542. So you want to watch those levels, and you want to get through them. You really want to get through them. You want to power through them, and I think you might be able to do that with this kind of volume coming in. Whether it's tomorrow or the next day, I'm not sure, but you have a lot of volume there. If this can get going, right? If you can get going, your next real big level is going to be up here. So that's why I like this. There's not a lot of risk here, right? I mean, if you get below the 21 day, you're going to want to be out of it, obviously. If you take out the lower low and you go below the 50 day, you're probably not going to want to be in it either. So there's a lot of places to use a stop. And there's a lot of upside here because if I get through this, then I can get up to here. So there's a lot of potential here. So just keep this one on your radar as well. KOPN, this was one that we were in before. You know, I get it. You're above this level. You're getting above 878. I just think you have an issue here for $1. So, you know, just understand that you're running right into this level here. So this is not something that I'm just going to run right into here. 988 is really what I would watch. It's just not ready for prime time in my opinion. There's much better trades. And frankly, there's no interest. Like we have very light volume today. So unless we're getting something that's going to come out, I don't say it. In regards to OIH, which I really, you know, the energy sector is here. So here's your energy sector and look how you closed today. So how long before something like this is reflective in that? It's not going to take very long. Right. So you can actually see the little move today. And I expect this to continue. I really do. And just give it a little more time. But you're forming a flag here and you have a little wedge in that flag right here. So we're going to have to watch that and see how it does. But I like that still. You know, don't chase it. Let me just go back to it for a minute before we do PLBY. Don't chase it, but I would definitely be paying attention to it. I think that it's a slower mover, but the fact that you're staying above this level is really what you have to focus on. PLBY. So they came out and they're doing a secondary. There's a huge short position. So they took advantage today with the shorts of covering on that news. And, you know, we opened at 47. We ran to 52 3/4. You know, the way that I play secondaries is very simple. I do not buy them. I don't care what it does during the day. If you want to do a day trade on it, that's fine. You just realize that you're out there and you could have that news hit at any moment. So I tend to avoid them. Usually that news hits either at night or during the day, but it can hit whenever. So you have to watch that. That's the first thing. Second thing, why do I want to buy a stock that I don't know where they're going to price the secondary at? I don't know where the interest is going to be, right? So if I don't know where the interest is going to be, is the interest going to be at 40? Is it going to be at 44? Is it going to be at 50? Like, we just don't know where the interest for the secondary is going to be. So until we figure that out, which I don't believe we have that knowledge yet, I don't really understand the rush to jump in and buy it. I understand why, if somebody was short, they want to cover. And I think that's what you're dealing with today. And it was great volume, but I am not chasing this. If you want to, technically, if you didn't know that news was out there, this was a great day. This was a really great day. Nice, give you a nice opportunity to get in there. And it looks like we're pushing to that 61 level. And this is one that we talked about in the top 10 list that I love. But, you know, to me, if I was in this and I got caught here, I feel like I was handed a gift in getting out today at a decent price versus, you know, coming in here and trading down like TIGR did, which, you know, all intensive purposes, they could reverse tomorrow. TIGR could go up and, you know, PLBY could come down. PUBM, you know, this is enormous volume and we really did very little on it. So what we have to do is just watch that, right? So here's your undercut right here, which takes us down, right? And now we're back over it. So we're trying to bottom. What we need to do to form a bottom, a double bottom really, is get above that level. Okay. Once you're above that, once you undercut and then get above the next level, okay, you're bottoming. Doesn't mean you're going straight up, but at least you're starting to bottom and base. So that's what you need to have happen here. We haven't even started that process. So you need to start that process before you do anything. And we're just not there. So and we're not above any of the moving averages. So I would just watch yourself here. It's not something that I would jump right into. And you could see that, you know, you're finally above the 5 and the 8, but I still don't see a reason to just jump in there. So this one's acting exceptionally well for a fintech. I actually think this is acting the best of all three of them. I don't know if, you know, they're next up for secondary or if they need money, but, you know, hopefully that doesn't come out for people. This was a really solid day where you tested the support level, opened, came down, cut it, and then ran back up and closed at the high, right? I mean, you're closing at the high right here. You open up over this or jump over this, you're going to get a big move out of this name. You're going to see people chase it. They're not going to want to miss a move. And that 3760, that's your real trigger because that's the wick. And that would mean that you've gotten through. You can see the closes are here, right? 2 closes and an opening. And what we're looking for is right here. You're looking for a push right here. So just keep that in mind. Get above that level, and I think that you're in decent shape. I think this can continue. And let's look at this on the weekly. You know, let's just look at this on the weekly. I mean, it just looks great. So RBLX, this is one that we're in from the newsletter. And let me just go to here. So, and we can see what's going on here, right? So here was that wedge. We talked about this yesterday. You broke down and you went right to this trend line, right? This trend line that goes all the way back here. And now we're right here. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that you could revert and go lower. So my stop was 87.90, 87.50, I apologize. And when we traded up on this, I was telling people that bought, you know, via the newsletter that as we go up, you need to trim this. So up here, hopefully people did listen and they trimmed. I have to watch how this acts. You know, this is not really the action that I want to see. I know people are looking at this and going, well, maybe it's going to bounce off a lesser moving average. Okay. You know, I mean, we could sit here and find a moving average that it's near, but it's just not, to me, something that I really want to, you know, pay attention to at all. Like, it's very clear to me that this is going to rest and possibly bounce now between, you know, 89 and 97 is what I think is going to happen. I think this line is going to become immaterial, but time's going to tell. And for right now, I would not be a buyer of this. I would sit, watch, and wait, let it figure out what it's going to do, because we just don't know what it's going to do right now. You're starting to see more of the, we're going to call them meme stocks, because for back of a letter term, you're going to see more of those move right now than anything else. Than like the real big earners. You can just see where the money's going right now. It's just we're rotating that. And these markets have been rotating very, very fast. So RILY has just been a huge performer. Earnings came out. They were excellent. And now you've undercut the support line right here. If by undercutting it, you should fill this gap. Right? So you could get to that gap right there, 61.58. What we need to see is you got to get back above these moving averages. They're just killing you. So if you're in this now, you got to get above this. They're telling you that we're going lower. I don't believe it. I mean, this is the last time they did that, right? And it looked probably awful down here, right? And then what happened? They caught and ran. And I'm wondering if you're going to see something like that again. You know, I'm just wondering if there's, yeah, and there it is. So hold on, let's draw it this way. So, you know, you have a trend line right there from this point. So what you're seeing is you're seeing it test that trend line. If you break, let's get rid of this. So, and let's blow this all the way up. And let's focus in on this. So you have a trend line that's going all the way back, right? So what we're going to do is just focus on this part of it. So what you have to watch is you have to make sure that from here up that you actually bounce and get through. I would be really cautious of the 50-day and the 21-day and the way they're forming. But again, they've done it here, and look what happened here. So possibly we're bottoming, right? Maybe this is a bottom. Let's get above the 50, and if you do, then you could take a shot and use this low right here as your stop. And the low of that would be 65.60. So that's one way to play it. I think this actually is going to move. I think that this is setting up for a big move. Yeah, you're moving a little bit after hours, aren't you? So, and I think it'll continue to move after hours. And, you know, it's funny, the two that I really think you need to look at are coming up, but let's just stay in alphabetical order because I'm watching one of them fluctuate and go up like 2 points like it's nothing on a $15 stock. Anyway, Rocket. I'm not crazy about that color. It's going to bother me. So let's just go here and change that. Okay. So you have this flag that came out, and then you're running the 50-day. And what do you do today? You get above that 50-day. When was the last time that we were above the 50-day? It's back here, right? Like you just are never above this. This is really poignant because we don't just have retail. Like if you think all these meme stocks are moving because of retail, they're not. Okay, 50% of the volume on AMC is being done through dark pools, which are non-publicly exchanges where institutions trade blocks of stock and they don't want you to know what they're doing and who the buyers and sellers are. So just keep that in mind. Now, what we see here is we're seeing a nice test of this new level. And look at this. Okay, you're right on it. So I would tell you that if you get above this 22 level, you could run, and now you're going to have a problem with the 2350 possibly, right? This goes all the way back to here, this 2350. And then above here, this was another crux that was a problem, 2728. But with this breakdown and then this rally back up, this has a base to it now, right? So this is not going to fall apart. So you do have some support there to watch, and I would keep that in mind. I would not be doing anything with that except waiting for it to break out because I think it's setting up to. This fits perfectly into like the meme stocks and the shorting stocks that have been moving. I mean, it just fit perfectly right in there. SDC is another example of this. Here, look at this. So not huge volume, but above average volume right here, right? And you're setting up to fill in this gap and you're in it now. So you're going to push here. If you get above this wick, you're going to push to probably this 1030 level, 1038 level, and then you're going to have to challenge this 1087 and then the 12. But there's a push here. And this was from before when we were looking at like a short squeeze, we were just off by about 4 weeks. So, and now you're starting to see it really start coming to fruition. So I would watch this one as well. I don't think you're going to have that huge move like this. Like I just don't see it. But I do think it can go forward. This is a very positive development, getting into the gap today and getting to this level. So this one I was asked about a lot, so I chose to cover it. It's not the most actionable one, but I would be very cautious of the action that I saw today on skills. And here's why. So the wick, open, close, right on that level, and everything above there, I couldn't get in, right? So what are you going to do? So you have to watch this. You have to see how this is going to play out. But to me, this is not something that I would be jumping into right now. I would be looking for better, greener pastures in different names. Because now you almost have to wait. Since this bar is so ugly, now you have to wait for this, right? You probably don't really want to do that. So just consider that. That's just how I would look at it. SOFI. Okay, so this is sitting at, 24? Look at this. After hours, and let's put this in. So like this had a really solid move today. Really solid. And I can't stress this enough. Like, look at this at the end of the day. Right? I mean, this was just the end of the day. Boom, it just spiked out of nowhere. If you want to just understand the magnitude of that spike, you can just overlay this. Okay? That's the magnitude of the spike. I mean, it's just insane volume out of nowhere. And it happened at the end of the day, which usually means it's some kind of institution taking a position. I would expect this to continue and move. That's what this is kind of setting up for. So you can see your level right here. I mean, you can see like this is really poignant. You have to watch here, right? Getting above that 2470 now, and you're going to just continue to push. And you're going to probably push to here. Okay, so that's your move. If you get through 2470, I don't know that you chase it here. The best thing would be to hope that we get one of those days, and this is one I really think you should be focused on tomorrow. Your hope is that you get one of those days where, like today, where you come in, you come down, and then you bounce back up. It gives you the opportunity to get in some of the trades. So let's go to TIGR. So, they came out, let's get rid of the relative volume, and you came out, you had great earnings, right? Rocked and rolled. Then what did they do? They came out and said, hey, we're going to do a secondary. They need money, and this is what they're going to do to raise it. And the stock's just telling you that it's not, they just don't know where they're going to price it, right? And maybe it doesn't have a huge short position like PLBY, so people aren't covering it, but you need to watch this. This is not something you need to jump into until this is priced. I would be looking at this the same way we played ZIM. ZIM was one we played. We waited for it to price at 40. And I'll just give you an example, pull it up real quick. So we waited for this to price at 40 here, which it did. And then after it priced at 40, we got a nice move to 43 because they held that secondary pricing offering. And that's exactly what we want to see with TIGR. I want to see it price, and then I may have interest in that. So Tesla was one that I really wanted to watch today. It was on like my short list, and I didn't do anything with it. It just opened and sold down all day. So this is not the action that I was looking for. I was looking for the exact opposite action, frankly, and it just didn't happen. You can look at this chart, and this is what happened to it all day. You just sold down, and then you just sat there. So I didn't chase it or try to build a position. I don't understand the move. And we actually went all the way down to where we closed below the 200-day, which is very interesting. So I would watch this tomorrow, and I'd watch the 600 level in Tesla if you're in it. If you break that, I mean, you're setting up, right? You can see this right here, right? So you're kind of setting up for a break. Let's get rid of these because it's too much. But you see what's going on here? See how it did it here? You're setting up for another one of those. Break, and then a new low. So just watch this. I would not be rushing into this. I'd be waiting to see what's going to happen. UPST, we walked through this trade, and we did get our move on the hourly. Now, whether or not you capitalized on that, I don't know. But in the newsletter, I laid out this trade where 166, the first target was 180, second was 192. And my point was to buy it around, this was where I was buying it on Friday. And I was just like, hey, if you get above this, you want to get in. So it gave us the opportunity within an hour to get up there. And then when I got up there, if you got out, or if you got out, whenever you did, if you got out the next day, whatever, it doesn't matter. What I'm getting at is you need to take a look at this and say, okay, well, it got to this level. Do I want to go for this ride? And if the answer is no, then you have to sell a portion or all of it and then go from there, right? You have to make that decision. So the question is now, what do you do? Well, this is not exactly what you should be thrilled to see as far as action, right? But you're just basing. But look at this line right here, this new line. I mean, so you have this huge downward trend now forming. So you're going to have to wait and watch and see. Now that's on an hourly chart. So it's not really reflective here, but I mean, here's your points. So, and that's not a ringing endorsement. It means that that seller, whoever is up there, is choosing to sell and no one is choosing to buy. And they're actually lowering where they're willing to get filled. You see how they weren't willing to get filled here last time? Now they are. So you're going to have to watch that. You're really going to have to watch that. This is telling you that we might see some weakness. So just be aware and honor your stop positions on this. This one, I think you really have to watch tomorrow. So, I was asked about this today on my scanners, and saying, how do you find these? How do you find these moves? I have a ton of scanners and a ton of watch lists. I'm going to show you one on pre-market eventually. I'm going to work it into the pre-market live show that we do every morning. And if you don't know, we do a live show every morning. And I would recommend trying to watch part of it if you can. 8:45, I try to kick it off to about 9:15. And we just run through stocks. I just do Q&A, and we run through stocks and try to set up patterns very quickly, like a lightning round. So you see how you just ran right through this level and here, and people are saying, how do you find this? I have proprietary scanners that I actually use, which just import data feeds into like Excels and things like that. But there are several really good and cheap scanners and watch list programs that you could use. And it definitely would have paid off today with something like this. I mean, so just understanding how to read this. When this hit, like you're above, like this, when this hit your scan today, right? Oops. So when this hit your scan today, what you would have noticed was this volume just off the rip. Okay. And that was the one thing that I noticed. I was like, wow, that is some pretty serious volume. What I liked about this was when it hit the scanner, it was pretty clear. Now, I can't always post everything for obvious reasons that I'm doing, but I just want to point something out to you. Okay, this was a pretty clean break of filling a wick, right? So that gave you an entry here, and you can see how this resistance became support. Now look at this. Okay, you're up here, right? And now you have this little wedge. So, and I'm just simply using a 1 minute chart. People are like, don't use a 1 minute chart. That's fine. Don't. I'll take the edge all day long. So look at how you're riding right here, right? And then look what happens when it breaks out. Let's get rid of, well, I can't get rid of those without getting rid of the others. Let's just get rid of these because they're not really helping us. So, and then as soon as we broke this, that's when I went on Twitter and just said, hey, you need to look at this. It's going to go again. It just had that look to it, right? That down bar, then you have a down bar break, you don't break it, then you have a bar where it looks like you're reversing, and then you get your reversal signal, right? And what's that followed by? Massive buying, right? So you need a scanner for those that are asking how I find some of these. You need a scanner to find some of them. Remind me tomorrow during the pre-market, and I'll name a couple of them to you. And we'll go from there. But I do really like this for tomorrow. I do think that this is setting up to be like the CLOV of tomorrow. And, that's another one that I'm going to go over really quickly. And I really should have gone over that one in order. And whoever's going to do the timestamps is going to get super annoyed with me. But, I'm going to cover it. I really think you have to look at the after hours data and what's going on here. Right. So like we were up over $13, $14 at one point tonight, I think. Let me just take a look where we went to. So yeah, I mean, you got up to 13.5. So this is setting up for a CLOV-like move. And what's a CLOV-like move for those that didn't play this today? So this was one that was on our squeeze the short list about 3 weeks ago. So we were a little early. We thought here, and then we had to wait. Well, it looks like we were a month early. So you could just see how this played out. And what I'm getting at is you have the first move here, right? And that takes you and it gets the volume, and then you follow through with your second move, which has even more volume. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to get that capitulation. And you started to get, let's close this. And you see how it closed at 22, and you started to get that capitulation. One sign to use for capitulation when you play these, like to answer everyone's question, and I wanted to cover this one so we're clear, I would not be a buyer of this. There is very little support until you get to $17, $18. And all the people up here that are buying after hours that lose money when they come in tomorrow pre-market, they're going to just drive it down. They're just going to blow it out and move on if it does do that. So I would not chase this one. What I do is I look for these patterns, and then I just move on to the next one, because that's what everybody else is doing. And you just have to be more savvy than them and faster, right, to identify them. So, look at this. This is setting up very similar to how this was. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. After hours, it's up another 10%. So it's kind of telling me that it might happen. So just keep that on your radar. And then finally, you can always go back and look at these a week out and see if there's telling you anything. And it's telling you a lot. It's telling you that you broke through a major level and that you could rip, but you need to be very careful here. We're in the beginning of the week. So looking at a weekly chart's not going to help us too much. And we just really didn't get above this level today. So just watch that. And I think that if you're looking to play these, the fact that we just started would have me interested in this. The fact that we just started would have me very interested in this. So keep that in mind. As always, please comment. Let me know what you like the most. And do me a favor and like this video. The more likes I get, the more people I get in front of. And it's my goal in doing this to get in front of as many people as possible to show them what it takes to be truly successful trading. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.